Hey guys, how's it going? It's Alexander Williamson here with the secret history living inside your aquarium. First off, on a serious note, we're going to talk about fish. This isn't going to be like the last podcast, but I do want to wish all of you well and anybody with pre existing conditions, fever, from anything that you've had in the past, if you're sick already, if you have an autoimmune disease like me, if you're over the age of 60, I want to say please be careful. Keep your hands clean. Follow the precautions they've laid out. Now, I happen to be in Seattle. I am in the epicenter of where this madness all started. I am on lockdown via my own accord because of my special condition. I don't need the mask on. I'm in the house. But if I go out to the doctor or the pharmacy or anything like that, I definitely do need that. This video will probably be demonetized, as any video where I have mentioned illness or anything like that has been. But today, what I want to talk to you guys about mostly, and we'll get to it in just a minute as people filter in, mostly I want to talk about things that we can do to take care of our fish in our fish room, and maybe even ourselves, that crosses over some of the things we have, some of the tools we use in the hobby, that we could treat ourselves with also in a pinch. Now, normally I would say never. Never would I say the quality of your cheap gloves you buy for a fish room, or a splash guard mask if you may have it. Some people like me with autoimmune diseases put on a mask when we're doing a deep clean, cleaning out tanks, cleaning out the bottom and stuff. Normally, I wouldn't say that's good for anything, but for now, if that's all you've got, that works, and I cannot say that antibiotics for fish would be a good choice for humans. However, I can tell you that 92%, according to a Forbes article, 92% of the precursor chemicals that we use to make antibiotics, and there's a lot of different antibiotics, I know, but erythromycin, sulfa drugs, as well as penicillin, Z-Paks. There's a whole bunch of them, but those are just a few that came off the top of my head. Those precursor chemicals are made in either India or China. Now, India has said they are not selling any more of the precursor chemicals. Now, the tricky part about precursor, I think I have something in my mouth. The tricky part about when I say precursor chemicals, so when you've got your antibiotics for your fish, or you've got your ICX or whatever it may be, what you're looking at, it may be made in the USA or manufactured in the USA, but they may be getting their isopropyl alcohol or whatever, some chemical in it from overseas, and they don't have to list that. So the FDA, which doesn't monitor the quality of fish medications, they would be monitoring that in human medications. And so when they say there's a shortage of medications, you'd think, okay, well, that's human medications. Well, the interesting part, and why for years people have been using APIs, erythromycin, furin 2, and then MOX is another one that people have used to treat their own infections, is because they literally buy the antibiotics right off the same line as the human antibiotics line. This has been confirmed by a lot of different articles. And while that's true, they may not have the same degree of handling. They may not have the same expiration date because they're not overseen by the FDA. But I have to say, those chemicals are literally bought from the human supply. So your fish's bacteria treating chemicals, your fish's antibiotics are going to all be human grade antibiotics when they get it. Now, I don't know if they cut it with something, Maybe some of it's milk lactose or something, just like a drug dealer would do. They cut the strength of it, or if they add anything to make it dissolve in water, you would have to research all of those things yourself. However, I know that erythromycin API, Metroplex, and then also API furin 2 and Mox is the big one that people buy online in a jar, is actually human stuff. So that has two implications. The first one being that I can tell you about is that means you can use it and it will work on your fish, which is great news. But uh, you, in theory, could use it on yourself. Now, they don't recommend this. It's a bad thing. Now, the bad news, though, about it being human grade for your fish and it working means that they are literally going to not have it. When humans don't have it, you can bet they're not selling it to the fish people. Now, the FDA has a list of 26 or 26 different medications which are already on the lookout list. Like, we have a stockpile, but we're not getting any more in. Chinese factories aren't making them. They're not working, and or they want to save them for the 1.6 billion people over there, and that's what India said, is we need all of our drugs for ourselves. We don't know how this is going to shake out. So the first thing is stock up for your fish, because this, whether you want to believe me or not, oh, thank you so much, Ginger, sweetheart. You are awesome. The super chat is incredibly helpful right now. Thank you. You don't know how much that helps things. Thank you very much. Have a great day. I'll get to the comments in just a minute. She says, heading to the house. Great company for the hour and 40-minute commute. All right. Well, I'm glad that I can keep you company, Ginger. You are a gal who deserves good company. I guess I just called myself good company. All right, guys. So, moving on. This virus is very similar to the common flu, or common cold, sorry. Not the common flu. Very different from the flu. We have 4 strains of coronaviruses already that circulate every year, and humans have gotten used to it because for 500 years we've gotten used to this seasonal flu that just goes around, or not flu, sorry, I just need to stop saying that. Cold, a bug, if you will. And it is a viral condition. Usually you just feel crappy, runny nose, diarrhea, upset stomach, that kind of thing for a few days, and then you get over it. And that's because humans have built up an immunity to those coronaviruses. Now, the only other known coronaviruses are MERS, which is the Middle Eastern one, and that kills 60% of the people that get it. Thank God that is not airborne and traveling around like this one. That one is way, way, way less contagious. Secondly, there is the virus SARS-1. Now, this virus is being called SARS-2 COVID, novel coronavirus 2019. The World Health Organizations also have been petitioned not to call any of the strains of this virus, not to name them after any country or anything like that. China fought really hard for that. So, in any case, besides that politics, yes, and you are right. I have watched Dr. Campbell for years. Since I was in college, I've been watching Dr. Campbell's videos online. He has done free med school first year videos and then specialty medicine videos for years. And Dr. John Campbell, if you search for him about all this stuff going on, is an excellent source. Now, I want to talk more about the fish room specifically, but the reason I'm talking about the illness right now and why this will not be monetized, I'm sure, is because this illness is going to be around. Now, last week, there were literally people in here saying, It's not that bad. It's not even as bad as the flu. The flu's killed way more people. Yeah, it had, because there's only been 50,000 people a week ago, or 60,000 people who had caught this. And in the US alone, there were 7 million people with the flu this year. So right now, the thing I told you guys a week ago about the hospitals not being transparent here, I told you guys that we had a bunch of people that were being kept on life support for unknown pneumonia. I told you guys that we had 1,500 or more cases in the community in Seattle and in the King County area. That has all come to light, and worse. Now we have 16 confirmed deaths. We have over 57 people that are, this has not been in the news, but my friend who's a doctor and who's treating them has told me that we have 57 people on life support. They have not been tested. The tests were not around until last Friday was the first time we were able to test anything other than the CDC. However, they were still defaulting to the CDC. So exactly the day after I mentioned this, and several other YouTubers, specifically YouTubers that weren't on fish channels, mentioned it getting worse. Now, here's the part that is not good, and that is that they're still seeing, with the presumed cases that the CDC has, and I have a friend in the CDC also, who actually happens to be in town to go to the nursing home which is one of the epicenters here. We now have another nursing home. We have 3 or 4 cruise ships that are also having it. The point of me telling you all this and staying on fish related topics, the point is that this is affecting the world, and it will affect fish stores. Fish stores are not going to be open if the owner is sick. This is not a short sickness. There is a small percentage, they don't know, somewhere between 2 and 5% probably, that literally don't get any symptoms. They just spread it for 3 or 4 weeks and they never get sick. That being said, the most common thing to happen to 80% of people, or 75% of people, is that they will get sick for 3 to 4 weeks. And it's similar to a bad cold or the flu for those people. So whether or not you believe me, I'm just going to put this episode out there, and all the people who want to argue with me like last time, wait a few days and you'll see the bodies adding up. You'll see the people sick. I'm not kidding. It's serious. It's really scary. We haven't stopped our soccer games with 50,000 people in the stadium. We haven't shut down anything. There's articles about Seattle being a ghost town. It's a bunch of bullshit. There's still people out and about doing whatever. And yes, people over 60 tend to be the ones who are passing away. Now, if you are active in fish clubs, you probably know a lot of people, at least in all the fish clubs I've visited, there are a lot of members who happen to be older, or happen to be in a wheelchair, or happen to have diabetes, or COPD, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of people who are stuck at home already with conditions that have made them gravitate towards fish keeping, because they have this fish tank here in their house, in their control. It's a pet they can manage. If they have to go to the hospital for treatment for a few days, they can leave the fish. And there's a lot of fish hobbyists that just happen to be older, and in general there are more males in fish clubs around the country at this point in time that go to meetings. And a lot of them are, retired and things like that, people who have a lot of more time. And so our fish club canceled our meeting, which I thought was very smart. The university campus where we usually have our fish club meeting, it is closed down because a student had the virus. Now we know that an employee at Starbucks, we have over 103 confirmed cases. And they just did last night, they did a sampling of 400 people downtown. UW, thank God, bless their soul, University of Washington, UW, has been started up a lab of their own because the FDA just allowed that to happen, and they can do 1,000 tests a day. The federal lab up here in Shoreline, which is just north of Seattle, supposedly can do 200 tests a day. However, I've never seen more than 43 tests come out of that lab a day. That's the highest number we've seen come out of that lab. I don't know what's going on, but the UW University of Washington lab put out like 800 tests today. So that's awesome. Out of all the tests run in the country, we've only run 3,900 tests in the whole country, and each person needs 2 to 3 tests to confirm a diagnosis. They do one test, and then they'll test the progress. If they're getting sicker, they'll test them again to see the count of things. It's really insane. If you want to see a pretty well managed area, look at South Korea. They're testing everybody in affected provinces. They hope to test everyone in their country and then know who has it, and you'll have an app that'll tell you where people are who have it, where there's hotspots, who was wherever. 297 people are dead here. Actually, it's 380 or something unofficially, but it'll be that later tonight, I assume, because they have been back testing people who died of pneumonia last week, and our government didn't allow them to be tested. They said that if they hadn't been to China, they could not be tested. Now we've gone back and found that all these people died. So in any case, it's a mess. And my point is that you may not, watching it right now, you may think you're in South Dakota and it doesn't matter, it's not going to affect you. It will. China has been shut down. Their factories, a lot of their factories have been shut down now for 2 months. Now, part of that is, about 2 weeks of that is accounted for. They know that Chinese New Year's is a big celebration. It's kind of like our Christmas, or in Europe, their holiday on holiday or vacation. And that's just worked into the schedule. I believe every state has a case of this right now. I believe, like I was saying, UW tested 400 random people yesterday just to do a field study. Downtown Seattle, they haven't released the final results because there were a couple inconclusives, and that's what happens when it's really low viral loads, like asymptomatic people. They've been having to test it again. But on the low end, it was 5%. On the high end, it was 7%. So they tested 400 people that looked fine, that were walking downtown, walking around the streets, walking around up by the university in the university district. And yesterday, out of that random sample of the population, 5 to 7% happened to have the virus that was walking around. So this is going to be 10% by tomorrow, probably. Who knows? I don't know how fast it spreads, but you see my point. The fact that the media says we only have 130 cases or whatever, yeah, that was just random sampling, Roxana. The fact that we just get that from random sampling means it's all over, and we failed to stop it here. I hope other states shut down their schools and things while they have a chance. We've been shutting down schools when somebody there got it. All right, so that's enough about the virus. I already know that this means that this video won't be promoted. So I hope that you guys watching get something out of this. I hope that you guys are subscribed. Maybe throw a like in there and then comment. What I'd like you to comment is any trick that you guys know of to either make fish food or make tools to take care of fish at home on a budget, or when you can't go to the store and buy it. So like my first recommendation would be those little nets that we need for fish. Pretty quickly, things like that will be running out at a lot of pet stores, if the pet stores are even open. Now that's the main thing, is you think with an employee sick, they're going to close the store and wash it all down. That's how it's going to be at first. After a little while, there'll be too many people sick, and they won't be able to just close and try to trace. Already it's community spread. So they've given up on trying to trace a lot of this. We have firefighters. We have over 1,200 people, I think, now, but they're not going to release it anymore officially because there's getting to be too many each day. People that are supposed to be at home, and even if they look fine, they are supposed to be at home for 14 days. Now they can have family members, roommates, whatever, kids that are allowed to come and go as they please. This is ridiculous in my mind. But this is besides all that. What I want you to understand from this rant, now that we're 20 minutes in, is that I want you guys to get that this is really going to affect us. This is going to be like September 11th. This is going to be worse than the recession. This is going to shut down little businesses. People who own little restaurants, when nobody goes out to eat, what are we going to do? When the vet is sick at the vet clinic where they have 3 helpers and 1 vet or whatever, that means you don't have a vet in your area, you know? And this isn't a quick disease that's just over really quickly. Our bodies have never been exposed to this. So we will have it for anywhere. The shortest case is 3 weeks with a week spreadable after and a week spreading in that first of the 3 weeks. You could start getting it as soon as 2 or 3 days if you have a bad immune system. But most people will be closer to that week to 11 days before they get symptoms. And then another 7 days before they need to go to the hospital. Right here, we're already almost full up on hospitals. So things are going to be, people are going to have to be at home and dying at home, basically, is what's going to happen. And we'll probably have sites for on-call people, doctors, and things. Maybe they'll make home visits. I really don't know what's going to happen. We don't have a plan for this. Don't trust anybody who says we do. We don't. We don't have a plan for something so contagious. And yes, even if in worst case scenario, if 5% of people died, that would be horrible. But society could function, right, without 5% of people. But 60% or more they think will be sick at some point. And so the whole point of this, even if you're not sick, is to take precautions, wash your hands, things like that, because we need to slow it so that there's 4 million people in this area. If 20% of those people that are sick, so 60% of 4 million, so let's just say 50% of it. So say 2 million people are sick in the next 6 months. If those people need help, if 20% of those people need help, what are we going to do? You guys, 20% of 2 million, that's 400,000 people. Do you think the hospitals can handle that? Plus car crashes and everything else that normally goes on. I mean, and people in America can't afford to stay home. We don't have socialized medicine, and we don't have, I hope that they come up with something to reimburse people for rent if they're at home under quarantine. But our system encourages you to go work the second you feel able. And with this virus, you're sick for a week after spreadable, at least a week, and also for up to 2 or even 3 weeks before. So this is going to wreak havoc and shut down a lot of small businesses. You may have access to Petco and PetSmart. You may have access to a small business. Maybe your local fish store will do better because maybe they only have the owner and 3 or 4 other people working there and one person getting sick at a time, or even they all get sick at the same time and then they get over it and then they can run the business again. However, this is going to affect imports from every country, not just China. I mean, if China can't build stuff, do you think we're going to feel well enough to be building stuff? There will be a point where nobody's building stuff. And we may try really hard to get, our production back up. And I hope, right now, they said that we only have 30 million masks, medical masks, in the U.S. For the government. and they need 300 million, which is a stupid underestimate. We have 350 million people. What are you thinking? Everyone needs one mask once. The doctors need a new mask for each patient. You know what I mean? And the other thing is they say masks don't help. Well, if they don't help, why does every doctor wear one? In any case, I'm on a tangent. I've already talked about those things. Let's talk now about fish things. Now that I've shown you guys, I feel like I've made my case of how disruptive this will be to the economy and to our lives. I think we can find a lot of joy and relief in our fish tanks, especially if you're stuck quarantined at home or something. Our fish tanks are going to be an escape. They're going to be another little universe for us to get away from all the news and all the depressing stuff. You know, there will be a point where, you know, you'll start seeing if 20% of the people over 80 are dying, there'll be a point when we're going to see people, you know, whoever, uh, I can't even think of someone over 80 right now, but, you know, Al Pacino, whatever, people over 60, people over 70. There's going to be people we know that are famous that start dying. There's going to be people we know in our lives that start dying realistically. Even if it's half of a percentage point, which nobody really thinks it is, it would um, be really something. And you've seen what the stock market's going to do. It goes crazy. Yeah, Clint Eastwood, there's someone over 80. Dustin Hoffman, I don't know, he's probably up there. Uh, but I mean, it's just, yeah, Betty White. She might, her and Keith Richards, I think they might live forever. But thank you very much. I just saw another super chat. Thank you so much, Aquatic Haven. Stay healthy, my friend. I'll keep you and your wife in my thoughts and prayers. We've got it here in North Carolina. It's scary. My daughter and I are asthmatic. Oh, God bless you guys too. You know, I've got asthma as well. You can probably hear it. And seasonal allergies. So I don't, who knows? That's another thing is inhalers. Those might become short supply. So while I want to talk about fish from here out, think about yourselves too. And we're going to talk about some little hacks and tricks. And if somebody wants to in the comments say, okay, the real video starts at 30 minutes in or whatever, feel free. That's fair. But I just felt like yet again, I had people doubting me and getting upset with me, and I am staking not just like my channel's credibility, and this isn't just off topic. I mean, it's about science and biology and sociology, which this channel does talk about. But the last week when I told you how bad it was here, people said that I was full of it, and then the next day we had 3 deaths confirmed, then 6 deaths confirmed, and now we're up to 16 with there's probably more that they just haven't confirmed yet. And over 100 and something people with it confirmed in our community. And the US has like, I don't know, 400 or something. Um, so yeah. So yes, treasure your family, especially if you're holed up on quarantine with them. Think about that. You get to be with your family. They're alive and well, or maybe they're sick, but I mean, you get to be with them. That's good. So try to remember that. Try to remember that. I know a lot of people won't be working, and it's so hard in our society. If you can't go to work and earn money, and or if your work is shut down for a number of months, like it's going to impact every aspect of society, from fish stores to the supplies to the money, you know, in the fish store. And then afterwards, I mean, you're literally going to have a huge chunk of people gone, and you'll probably have deflation if we manage things correctly. And then, you know, if that happens, we may have a rebound where there's lots of property and things like after some of the Spanish flu and Black Plague and things like that. So, in any case, For people who don't think it's that serious, just watch this again in a week. You'll have to figure it out. Um, you will. It'll be there soon enough. And for that, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that if you believe our president, he's not telling the truth. At least Mike Pence seems to be at least trying to get the truth from some doctors and things. He came out here. All right, guys. So your parents won't let you stock up on goldfish food. Aww. So, let's talk about that. If you have goldfish, you know what you need to do is get duckweed. You will never need to feed your goldfish again. You will get them through lean times on that. For me, I have algae. Now that sounds funky, but my angelfish, my guppies, endlers, mollies, platies, my plecos, not that it's good to feed them algae all day, but when they get really hungry, they'll start to nibble like this on the plants, and they'll start to eat the fungi and the algae and whatever's on there, the little bio films and things. So, yes, if you have a goldfish, save your duckweed, your moss, your water lettuce up top. There are lots of great recipes online of things you can do with that. Now, say let's talk about something else, which is we may not be able to get fish for quite some time. If nobody's tending fish ponds in Indonesia and China, where we get a lot of our fish from and then sent over to Florida, there may be much more breeding going on in the US again, which I think would be a good thing. There'd be a lot less selection, but I think it would be great if people were mostly buying in the US bred fish. So, if there's a chance you're going to be on QT or stuck in your house or just going out less in general, why not take on some projects, breed some fish? These guys are getting older. These are the crebensis. These are my hybrid line that I created. She's half or lacunja and half poultry. So she's got the genes to be big, but the genes for that red belly and then the leopard print all over. And the babies, half of them get really big and half of them stay teeny. So they have the color of the poulters and like Nigerian reds, but then they get either really big or really small. So I'm separating those strains and trying to keep a small strain and a big strain. So we'll see how that goes. But okay, so Fancy Tales says baby food and gelatin with crushed fish flakes, cheap and easy way to make volume. Plenty of recipes out there. Totally. Yeah, most European, Nyan says most European governments are not being proactive, including the UK. I can understand why Dr. Campbell is expecting to catch it. Yeah, he is, and he is an older man. He seems to have some sort of cough already, and I worry about him because he is like a legend online since 1997, way before YouTube. Dr. John Campbell had video series on a really cheesy website where the letters are like 3D and they spun around pixelated, like saying online medicine. So I don't know. I think he's in his mid 70s. So I really hope people like that. I mean, it's going to start to hit home at some point. But let's talk about fish. That's what my channel's about. I said that's what we were going to talk about. And this is about ideas. And you guys are I want you guys to throw out ideas. If you're watching this later, put them in the comments. Comment with an idea down below of a way to or a recipe of how to feed fish at home, or something you use for your fish that that was repurposed for yourself during this time, maybe. One thing that you could easily repurpose if you live in an apartment building, townhouse, or you're just worried about water. They found that a lot of large apartment buildings in Hong Kong and China, that the virus was spreading through feces through the pipes, and you could not drink water out of the taps. So, what do a lot of us fish keepers have? RO units. That's reverse osmosis. You could literally use your fish water device, your or shrimp cleaning water cleaning device, to make your own water safe. Now, I'm not sure how. You'll have to check your model and if it goes down to the size of viruses. Some do, some don't. Um, but in any case, there is another way that you can do things. So say you go to the store and you can't find Prime, you can't find Stress Coat, you can't find anything to treat your tank water with. So you can't, or your tap water. The chlorine, they may up the chlorine levels in our water. It wouldn't surprise me if they did that right up to the high limit, just to be careful. And what if you're going to fill your 125-gallon tank and you have no prime or no dechlorinator? Well, oh, this guy's got something going on his fin. Looks like, oh no, it looks like cotton of some sort, like velvet. All right, I'll have to treat that later. I don't know what's going on. He could have gotten wounded too, fighting over eggs. But what would you do? Well, get yourself some buckets. If you don't have like normal buckets, just start saving jugs, half-gallon jugs, milk jugs, gallon jugs, whatever. When you fill up your tap water, you can just let it sit for 24 hours overnight, 48 hours if you're really worried about it. And then you can use that water the same as if it had been dechlorinated. That will take care of your dechlorination. So if you want to save money, I don't know how much money you're really saving by doing that. You're really spending a lot of time by doing that. That is something you could do. So there's another idea. If you need to keep your water at a certain pH and your water comes out acidic, so maybe your tap water comes out at 6.5 and you're keeping guppies or cichlids. Look at this pretty apisto. This is that one I got from Aquatic Arts. And by the way, while other people are closed down, now would be a good time to get your breeding stock. So Aquatic Arts, I have links in the description. You can get, what is it? I think it's 15% off your first order. I'm going to be giving away four gift certificates at $50 to their website coming up soon here. And basically, why not order online? Order your fish online. Order some rare or unusual nano fish or whatnot, and then end up breeding them. Breed them for fun while we're all stuck inside. Same with plants. Get your lights now. If you get your lights, everyone knows UV light is actually good. It helps make vitamin D in us. So if you can get some real good grow lights, that's not going to do anything but help your immune system and your mental state anyways. But also, if you need to make some money on the side, why not start growing some plants? Like here, I have Logonandra boldi pink, and this plant goes for $120. This is a big one over here. Here's Logonandra boldi silver, and then Logonandra carolensis, which only goes for about $15. But you can see my point, and then I've got Rotala Vietnam, I've got the Logonandra, the Ludwigia ex lacustris. It's a beautiful plant. Spiralis, Crypt Spiralis, doing really well. I've sold these for $20 to $30 a plant easily. I think they're a beautiful crypt with that green line down the center and then the red tiger stripes on the outside. Yes, another great way to get free food that's truly free is just get a Tupperware container, Rubbermaid container. I mean, really, if you're in a pinch, just cut the top off a water or milk jug and leave it outside. And coming up here, we'll have mosquitoes. Now, I don't know if mosquitoes spread the virus. That's a whole other question that we'll have to wait and see. I hope not. The virus seems to have properties that only bond with your lungs, with your ACE2 inhibitor docking proteins or ACE2 docking proteins. So I'm hoping that that's not the case. But just real quick, just to get an idea, this is my life here with what I need to take. So with the lupus and everything, um, I am very worried. Now, if you're on, this is just a side note while I'm thinking about it. If you're on anything like methotrexate, prednisone, anything that limits your immune system, that tamps it down if you have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or Lyme disease, things like that, talk to your doctors now before they're over burdened and trying to help out and do triage and things like that with other local areas. Ask them now what you should be taking or if you should stop taking it. My doctor personally, now this does not apply to you, I am not a doctor, but he told me to stop taking those medications. So, like I said, raise some baby snails or fish. These are cribs. You know, I can usually get $15 for these guys if I let them get up, or $3 if I let them get to little stripe size. And then if I get them to full on colorful size where you can sex them, I can get easily $15 for them. And if I pair them off, I can get anywhere from $40 to $50 for them. And with angels, it's about half of all that. But, you know, they can have up to 400 babies. And I'm leaving this algae on the front of the tank because that algae is stuff that the babies will eat. So even though it may not look as good right now, I'm hoping, you know, I'm just thinking, okay, what's going to be best for my tank's ecology? Now, the other thing that you might want to think about is if you can't get fertilizers for a time, if you don't mix your own and have powdered fertilizers, if you do easy fertilizers, get that now. A lot of those precursor chemicals will not be around within a few months, probably. And this sickness is, as I said, it is not going to go away quickly. It, in all estimates, 6 months would be the quickest that it would start to fade. And after that, it may go away a little bit for the winter and then come back again. And then hopefully we would have uh, some sort of immunization, hopefully. But none of us really know what's going to happen. So um, it's just it's uncharted territory, and you know, better prepare. Also, the other thing you can do is distill water. So distilling water is when you boil it. So what you can do, and this is not safe if it's pressurized, you don't want to make a still, but what you can do is you can take uh, a pot or something, get a deeper pot, and then you can get a funnel that sits over another pot. Like, try to find something to limit the amount of flow. You could even pull out this part of your burner and like tape off one piece of it if you needed to, so that it constricts that pot, and then you have a funnel. So all the steam's going up, and then you can literally up at the top, copper's best, but you could have a tube, just like if you were making um, a real still for making alcohol. You can boil your water and get it clean that way. If you really need RO water, that would be the same as RO water. That would be ultra clean. In the Northwest here, usually my rainwater has a TDS of 0 So it's pretty low pollution, especially it's been raining for a few days. However, if you're somewhere like LA or whatnot, I can't say what your tap or what your rainwater is going to be. I just got one of the last one of these online, but it will work in your aquarium as long as you get a thermometer with a range that goes to it. Yes, a moonshine still is what I'm talking about. Don't use a freaking pressure cooker. I know a lot of people do that because water boils at a lower temperature, but it actually, you're then getting rid of the heat that kills a lot of the bacteria for one, and for two, it could blow up like an explosive thing. So just don't do that. All right, so Electro Fry says, Brother Nature, I agree. My local fish store just ordered another 36 guppies and a dozen Neo shrimp. It was placed 2 weeks before I was expecting another order. Yes, with RO, you do need to add back in minerals, so it's not great for live bears. Yes, this is talking more for shrimp, and assuming that you have, you know, some sort of stabilizing or equalizer type mineral thing in there. Now, obviously, the easiest down and dirty thing to do is crushed coral, crushed eggshells, or crushed well, chalk works too, or even just using a tablespoon of baking soda per I think it's per 20 gallons, a tablespoon, teaspoon per 10 gallons. Look that up to double check. I don't have anything in front of me, but that's another great one. If you do run out of antibiotics for your fish and you go to the store and you can't get them, because most places don't sell fish antibiotics anymore because of what I just said, which is people use them and take them themselves. By the way, look at this pink panther crypt, is just looking incredible. Love it. I don't know why the one in the darkest area seems to be doing the best. But yes, oyster shells, clam shells, any of that stuff, bone. If you've got a skull sitting around or anything, I wouldn't break that up though. Cuttlefish bones, another great one. Yes, thank you, cherryfish, and fancy tail aquatics. Those all work great. Cuttlefish bone is like it's usually for birds, for them chewing on it, but it breaks down. And a pound of coral or snail shells or whatever it may be. You know, a lot of times in my higher TDS tanks, so my guppy tanks, or if I had shellies or cichlids of some sort other than South Americans, I would actually allow them to eat snails and then leave the remnants. Actually, that's exactly what I did over here. If we want to take a look at this, the TDS in this tank is like 400, which is a little high for angelfish, but I literally have a graveyard of all the snails from when there were pea puffers in here. And now the TDS and the carbon is nice and high in there, you know, and actually the carbonate hardness, the K and the KH are higher than the TDS. So that's kind of nice. I mean, that kind of equals out better. Um, let's hop downstairs. I don't want you guys to get dizzy. Put the mask on for catching your attention. Now, this is a mask that's actually a respirator, but I can pop out the filters, wash it. It's neoprene and it's all uh, doesn't doesn't it's antibacterial, the stuff they've coated it in. All right, that was just so you'd look at me. All right, guys, but also seriously, the Surgeon General put out a warning saying don't buy masks. They need them for medical reasons, and even though that probably is a screw up on the part of whoever should have ordered masks, limestone also works. Yes, thank you for that tip too. And I'll show you that going on in this tank right here. So this tank right here, I have rock in here of sorts, but one of the big slabs of rock in this tank is a type of quartz that has actually some rust on it, some reddish rust, and it also has some calcification, some calcite on it. And so that basically gives the plants what they need. Now, short of that, if you have a very planted tank and you can't buy ferts anymore, but you have your CO2, um, maybe if I were you, I would turn down your CO2 a bit if there's any hint that you're not going to be able to refill, just so you don't shock your system if there's not a refill of CO2 available. Now, a lot of places have the actual, machine that scrubs the air and makes the CO2 and makes the oxygen and nitrogen, so you don't need to worry about those kind of gases. But other things like hydrogen, helium, things like that, they don't have. Just so you know, I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, in here, I have enough fish that they're going to keep the nitrites and nitrates high. So all I have to do is make sure they don't get too high. So, I mean, that could be anything from saving your baby guppies. So what I did is I put more moss up here, and I have a whole horde of baby guppies. I don't know if you can see them all. Like, they duck and go down into the moss pretty quickly. They're pretty flinchy because of how mean the other fish are in here. Um, the loaches and the barbs and the where is the other one? And my blue or my red convict cichlid. He's the Honduran red point. He loves to eat even adult even adult things. He'll eat. But yeah, so I've decided I cleaned up the duckweed and things out for the most part. I've got to stay on top of it out of this nursery or out of this tank, and I'm turning it back into a plant nursery. So I got the Ludwigia araguaia, and then also Ludwigia exlacustris, Cabamba furcata, the Ludwigia super red. Got tons of moss, 3 different kinds: Christmas moss, Java moss, and flame moss growing all over in here. Taiwanese lilies. And then also, because I have all these loaches and pandagaras and things like that, I allow my spillway filters to get gross like this. And then what I'll do is I'll put those next to a power head. And I've got a power head here. And that is food and encouragement to get them breeding in another tank. And I'll do that in like a 20 long, like in this tank over here. So the other thing I've been using a lot of is methylene blue. And so if you can see it, there are a bunch of eggs in here. And I took these from the angelfish before they decided to try to eat them. And you can see these two who keep breeding, their babies are mostly, I'm going to show you, are mostly down in here now with the shrimp. So there's a few kinds of babies in here, if you take notice. And the ones with the copper eyes are going to be the, wow, they're growing so fast. The ones with the copper eyes are going to be bettas. And like that one. And then I have some Fongzi raspberries. And then I have tin winnies. And over here, if I can get it to come back around. Sorry guys, I know this is nauseating. But I have some big fry that are the same age as everyone else, but you can really make out the fish. This is probably going to be a tin winnie right here. You can actually see the gold spots starting. And then I've got shrimp that are nice and pregnant in here also. So I'll be selling shrimp also. This one is like crazy pregnant. I don't know if I've seen a shrimp that pregnant. You guys look at that. All right, guys. So, yes, 3M says they will have 300 million masks by the end of the month, I think it was. So the little fish with the bronze eyes, those are mostly the bettas that I've raised. They're just little fry that I stole as eggs. And then there are also angelfish in here. And I don't know which fry are going to end up being the angelfish. Just because I know this one is a betta here. But I don't know which one is going to be the angelfish because there weren't many eggs that looked like they were going to survive. And when they're young, angelfish don't look like the angelfish shape. They look like little, I don't know, like these, like every small fish. So we shall see. But I wanted to also point out that when you have tanks like this, you can also take the food out of the tank. You can take the food out of the, or sorry guys, my mind's mixed up. Uh, so you can take the plants out of a tank if you have it all planted up, and you could actually put in, and you can look this up online, maybe I'll do an episode on it. You could actually put in a little garden. You could get clay pebbles or rocks, use water for the roots, or even this kind of stuff just totally immersed in water and sitting up here, but having the water wash through it with a power head or a pump, or even a hang off the back that's been rerouted into a dish that then spills out that you've drilled a hole in. And you could grow all sorts of little herbs, strawberries, things like that. If I hope that we don't get to the point where you can't go to the store and get strawberries, but it very easily could get to that point. And so growing our own food with our fish tanks, if nothing else, I mean, if not just a cool project, maybe it's something to consider would be hydroponically, adapting your fish tanks hydroponically. If you don't have things to kill algae and you've watched my videos on how to kill algae the ways I recommend it without using chemicals first, like right off the bat. See, this is this annoying algae in this tank. This is what happens if you don't put plants that have already been in another tank in my area. This algae in particular loves to grow for about a month. It blooms, especially if you use any aqua soil. It's some sort of snotty, clear. It could even be some sort of, I suppose it could be a cyanobacteria of some sort. But in any case, yeah, it's just not the best stuff. But a lot of algae can be used, stuff like this, that will grow on your, it'll grow up onto your filters. You can take that off. You can feed that to your goldfish. I mean, you can do all sorts of stuff with that. And there's lots of recipes online. Maybe I'll do some shorter videos that are recipes, not just your fish, but your snails and your shrimp. A lot of shrimp eat vegetable matter. If you do have fish that die, I know this is like real, I guess, end of the world kind of thinking. But if you really can't find fish food, you could get a fish like guppies that reproduce like crazy. Be feeding them mosquito larvae or brine shrimp, which you can now easily still get tons of that. And there is a link in the description, I believe, for gifts under $10, and then there's a couple other links. But if it's either in this video or another one, there's a link to the Hobby, Hobby, German brine shrimp hatchery, and that can feed all my shrimp. Like maybe two of them could feed all my fish, including my angels and everything like that. Because all I do is throw some guppies in with my angels. They have babies. The angels eat that, plus the angels are eating the algae, and we really do overfeed our fish. So if we ever got to a time where we're like, man, I don't even know what my fish are gonna eat, fear not. You have lots of things in your arsenal. Let's see here. Do I keep Indian rice fish? Yes, I do. They're right here. These are the blue daisy, or no, Indians I don't have. The triangular bodies, I don't have any of those right now. I did last year outdoor. And that's the other thing is soon the weather should get nice enough that we, in a lot of parts of the country, you'll be able to raise fish outside. And if you have a 50-gallon barrel or something like that, I mean, not to go too crazy, prepper, planner, conspiracy theory, might not hurt to put some tilapia or some crawdads in there, some crayfish that you could eat in a month or two from then. Uh, I'm not kidding. I mean, that would be like urban farming, like just like chickens or something. I had friends who would grow like this on the tilapia tank. They had a 200-gallon like tub type thing, like an industrial tub, made out of rubber or hard plastic or rubber, maybe PVC or something. But they set that in the ground, and then they use the water from tilapia, which just make lots of waste, just like goldfish too. And they had that water going up into trellised gardens, which were growing strawberries and onions and green onions and garlic, stuff like that. And then they had hydroponic stuff, so stuff that they didn't have to worry about rotting. So, potatoes, like you wouldn't want to hydroponically necessarily grow a potato to fruition. You can get it to grow and take a lot of nutrients out of the soil, but that actual bloom will rot if it's sitting in water immersed 24/7, I believe. So you want to use plants that have roots and not tuber vegetables if you're going to do the hydroponics totally immersed method. But you can always push that back up with a pump or a power head, and you can always make more uh, more of that water dripping down just like a normal potted plant that gets watered, and poke holes in the line for the speed. Now here's more Indian rice fish. I'm really hoping that soon these guys will start breeding, and that'll be fun. This one is the oldest female here, but they hold their eggs with their stabilizing pelvic fins, and they hold it right to their chest, and so it's just kind of fun to watch them. They're not live bearers really. They're kind of like shrimp, but they have little eggs that they let live right under their bellies. It's so good to see everybody in here. I hope you guys are hanging tight with everything going on. It hasn't hit you yet. It will soon. And for that, I am sorry. Another thing, this, which is something that I have had on a list. I think it's in the description to this video, but if not, I made a video of uh, 10 gifts under $10, and then another one I think was like Christmas gifts or 10 gifts under $20 or whatnot. But in the link below those videos, and hopefully this one, there will also be yeah, your World War II gas mask would be fine if you had a fresh can filter in it. But for this, you can measure temperature. On me, I can measure forehead temperature, but you would need to know what temperature you run at. But this will, if I point it under my tongue, if I get my wife to help me, this will tell me my body temperature the same as my other thermometer. So that's good to know. And it's very useful for me in my tanks. That's why I have it. But, just thinking multi-purpose here, right, guys? And, another thing that's great is if electricity's out for any reason or anything like that, siphons, these things actually work great for getting gas out of a car in a pinch. So, I mean, don't ever use it for fish again, but if you had to, if gas stations were running low on deliveries because all their truckers were sick or whatever, these rice fish, I don't think they're just called blue daisies. I think they're a strain that was, I might be wrong, but I want to say that they were worked on in Taiwan and Japan. And they have the blue eyes, kind of like a Pacific Pseudomagil, but they have a slight yellow color to them, and then all over they have an iridescent blue. these rice fish. But they can withstand cooler waters also, which is nice. They can withstand hot water or cool water. And then I've got the Phoenix Rasboras here. I love them so much more than Chili Rasboras. Better color, smaller size. And then I've got the Erythromicrons. So all of them are in here with a few shrimp too. And they drop eggs. And every once in a while, I'll see babies. I'll swoop them out. And that's who's living in there. Then also I have vinegar eels. I have tannins that I boiled down. More tannins that I boiled down from leaves. Also, you can, instead of almond leaves, if those aren't coming in, of course, then you can always use just like maple leaves. Something as simple as that. Um, Again, another little problem is hydrogen peroxide. I can't seem to find that at the store anywhere right now either, as well as rubbing alcohol. So you may need to look at other ways to take care of killing blackbeard algae or sanitizing. Vinegar is one way, but know that vinegar is not going to sanitize. Holy cow, look at this fish. That might be like dropsy or something. I've never seen an endler that round. Unless she has babies tonight, I'm going to have to help her out with a little syringe in the gravid spot. Don't use black walnut leaves for tannins. All right, I never have, but I will pass the message on to everyone. Yeah. Alder cones, yep, those are great. Picked them. I usually parboil them for a sec, just to kill the little mites and junk that's in there. You don't know what kind of fungi is on there. Also, if they've been on the ground, if you didn't pick them off the alder tree. And I know you didn't because the alder tree is too tall to try to pick. Yeah, so that's what's going on. I'm guessing dewormer we have enough of for livestock and stuff that you'll probably still be able to find that somewhere online. And so that should be okay. Lights, we have a good amount of in the country, but actually fish tanks, if you want a rimless tank, buy it now, because I had to wait 5 months for my rimless 90p upstairs as it was, and that was just the start of, because of trade wars with China. You have to remember we had a 30% tariff on China too. Like, we were charging 30% to any goods going in, and that marked up. So any place them sending in stuff was also 30% markup. Now, another interesting thing is a lot of hospitals, depending on where you are in the world, actually use that medical tubing, the 1/4 inch, as their go-to IV lines. So if you had saline or something like that, if in your area they're calling for something like that, you can help out. Now, another thing is, if you run out of filter floss, just go to Goodwill or Value Village or one of those kind of places, a secondhand store. If you cut a cheap stuffed animal open, it will be filled with pretty much the same stuff. Some of them have been treated with fire retardant and they'll have labels that say that. But if you're literally all out of your filter floss, if you don't have any of, this is nice filter floss, but if you don't have any of this stuff and all the stores are closed, you can rip open your pillows and use stuff, especially if it was made by someone that you know and it wasn't like made in a factory. Like in China, they don't care. They're not going to use flame retardant stuff in there. I've ripped open Chinese, Indonesian, Mexican, Indian stuffed animals with like newspaper and like chewed up cardboard in them before. But in the US, they're supposed to have fire retardant spray on it, which probably isn't good for the fish or may inhibit bacterial growth. But if you see that it doesn't have any other stickers and it looks like some ghetto made out of the country cheapo stuffed animal, I'd rip it open and use it if you were really in a pinch. Your airlines, um, somebody asked me, could I use airlines for myself if the hospital was overflow? No. This would just bring you atmospheric air. It would just force that into your nose. You would need to take a tank, like your CO2 tank, and get that filled with O2. And now breathing straight O2 will make you so lightheaded you'll pass out. Plus, there are also additives at some places that they use, or you could actually freeze your throat badly. So, this is something I wouldn't recommend. But if you are a doctor or you know a doctor and they needed oxygen, that's like an hour to 3 hour supply of somebody who needs oxygen. Um, and sometimes they may be repurposing bottles of CO2 for that. They may need that exact thing because we are short on oxygen bottles in our care. Also, if you can't find heaters, just know that your hottest tank going up here is a good idea. The light will bring heat. Any water you have moving, it will lose more heat because of evaporation, but it also gains heat going through the motion. So as long as it's not exposed to the air too long for a fall like this, if this were filled up right to the level, it would actually be gaining a couple degrees of heat because of that electric motor. And the same is true for just the lighting going up in the room. I've had as much as a 15-degree difference in the day in that. So that's another little tidbit. But lean on the online society, lean on each other if you guys need something and you can't find it in the hobby. Like I was saying, nets like this, I've done this because I didn't have a shape of a net, like I needed a triangular net or something. But you just take an old-fashioned coat hanger made out of wire and use some pliers and bend it to the shape you want. Twist it around the shaft here, or around the long piece that you straighten out, and then put some pantyhose over it. That actually works great for brine shrimp too, if you need a sieve. Or you can use, just various, maybe you have a veil from some sort of costume outfit or something that has a porous, like, underside to it. What do you call it? Like a slip to it. That's probably more in the helm of you ladies out there than most of the guys I know. But that's another great thing that you can do. But like I said, you're out of dechlorinator. Just leave it in a bucket like this overnight. Should be fine. Stir it when you think about it. That might help a little bit. So if you guys have more tricks like this, please comment when I post this video up. I would love to hear that. Also, yes, Aquatic Haven, thank you. You can make your own hand sanitizer with alcohol and aloe vera. I cannot even find isopropyl alcohol anywhere around here. You can also use actual drinkable alcohol, but it needs to be over 150%. Because it needs to be 60% alcohol or better, and you just want to err on the side of caution. So, I mean, that would be 120 proof, technically, but you really want more like 140, 150 to be sure. And the proof is just double the percentage. Fishy Fun 57, your Tiger Endler males aren't as large as mine. Well, these guys are actually about 2 years old now. These are my males from my A-string line, what I have right now. And they are originally Lucas Bretz, then I bred them to have blue in their tail and a black border around that tail, and then white stripes in between the dark stripes. And then if you turn the direct light off and you shine an LED, they're actually purple and white is their coloration, which is bizarre, but that's how that worked out because of iridophores. I have an entire video on iridophores if you want to know about the science of those or what that means. Yeah, so you can use old t-shirts, sure, any cotton or hemp, although those things will rot, so you really need to change them quickly. And cutting sponges for filter media is also a great idea, Chewy Fish. So yeah, these are kind of desperate things to do. But yeah, grain alcohol, denatured alcohol, if you're just trying to sanitize things. And actually, the CDC and I think it was the FDA, CDC, and maybe it was like OSHA put out a list of all the chemicals that can kill COVID 19 if you need that list. If there's a PDF and it has like, I don't know, 60 different chemicals that are common that will kill the virus. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, this is kind of what I wanted to touch on for the live stream, and I really appreciate all you guys on Patreon lately giving me a reliable source of income because I could use it. I'm stuck at home right now. Anybody visiting my Teespring, if you like what you see, get a T-shirt. If you want a specific fish or something, hit that up. Myself, I just haven't been feeling so hot on my own, regardless of all this, and hence why I'm on staying home out of caution. And my wife has been very understanding and being very careful with where she goes and washes her hands and all that jazz. So thank you, and thank you for the super chats, the likes, the shares, all of it. I really, really do appreciate it. You guys have gotten me over 10,000 mark of subscribers, and I value each and every one of you. I really do, and I care about you. A lot of you are my real life friends, and you know, you're not just some figment of my imagination or some online friend that doesn't exist in the real world. And I know sometimes I don't talk to all of you frequently, but I mean, there's a good 4 or 5 dozen of you that over the last 3 years we've gotten to know each other through chats and emails and texts and phone calls, hanging out in person. Some of you have become my close friends in real life. So not that the internet isn't real life, but you know. So yeah, I'll try to get on some more fluffy, happy go feely, yeah, happy go lucky stories, maybe for the upcoming content. But I just wanted to keep you all in the loop. Hope you guys are taking it serious. If you're not now, you will soon be, but don't panic after that. Just let's all calmly do the right things. All right, guys, I will take it from here and check out. Thanks to the 2 super chats, that really kicks butt. And Ginger, you are the greatest. Even though tornadoes tore up your town, I really was worried. I trying to get a hold of you. Speaking of real friends who I've met, I went all the way to Nashville to meet that gal and my wife's family, but that's besides the point. Let's just say it was to meet Ginger, who rocks. She listens to this while she drives. All right, guys. So take care of your fish. Take care of your plants, your inverts, your snails and shrimp, your gravel and your microbacterial biomes, and take care of the people in your life. But most of all, take care of yourself so that you can keep taking care of those other people, because there's going to be a lot of people who need to be taken care of, who need, maybe check on your neighbors. Maybe somebody's on quarantine and they need someone to bring them toilet paper or food or potatoes or I don't know, whatever, Gatorade is something that they would need, chicken noodle soup. Let's come together as a world community, but also locally. Start locally. We'll come together on YouTube also, but I really do care about you guys. You guys really inspire me, and I want to thank you for that. So videos might get weird as I start to get cabin fever over the weeks, or if I just get sick and fever dream updates. So alright guys, I will talk to you later. Remember, take care of yourselves, do that other stuff, and I think if we all did that half the time, the world would be twice as good of a place. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.